Okay, so hello guys. Here we have the legendary Neil pickup and the Alex Kurdecha, the Polish Viking. So we will start this interview. So first of all, Neil, for the half of person who doesn't know who you are, could you quickly please introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm Neil Pickup. I'm from the UK, and I'm an arm wrestler by trade. I've been arm wrestling since 1986, 87. So I started when I was a puppy, and since that time, it has been my life. I've been embroiled in this sport in a lot of different roles. As a competitor, I competed for many, many years, right up to sort of 2009, 2010 really was my sort of serious pursuit of competition. During that time, I was lucky enough to win some stuff. I've won the British National Championships many times, European Championships a number of times, World Championships a couple of times, so done okay in the game. I've been involved in big promotions as well. So I was a promoter of some major events. I've hosted the World Championships with the WAF. I've been involved in the European Championships, same situation. The UAL, the PAL, the WAL, Arm Wars International Super Series. And here we are, king of the table 4.
Yeah,
it's all about this big man.
I just want to add something, because if you guys watch a Giants Live or Iron Wars Super Series, or even you watch sometimes, even if you're not addicted too much to the sport, but watch some sport program, you probably remember this brilliant voice of Neil Pickup. It's if you hear this, it means that big show is happening. If you just hear this voice, you know that something very special. The best athletes will be there. The best show will be there. And for me, like a guy who watched the videos when I was not able to compete, but I was small guy who watching the Giants Live or Arm Wars series when the Richard Lapkus and Devon Larat was pulling, and already I remember this voice. So always for me, it's like Neil is something special. It's his voice. It's something very, very special.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. He might not be known as the highest of athletes like Devon, Levin, and so on, but he's the backbone of the sport. He's been doing it for decades. And of course, it was yesterday I met you for the first time. It was such a mind trip because we were talking and I hear the voice of I always hear the voice, all the Arm Wars videos and everything. So yeah, Neil, your official predictions of the fights.
So I'm gonna step outside of this a little bit and try and take it a different route, and I'll tell you why. I've actually already done a video with James the other day where we were talking about this, and I came up with the idea to sort of do a video preempting. So I've done my predictions of the matches, how I actually think they're going to go. Of course, it's supposition. We'll see how accurate or inaccurate they are, and that's the beauty of this thing. I think that there are multiple lanes available here, but out of respect for the athletes at this stage, because I'm the commentator of the show, I've been in this role myself. I've been in the high level matches myself, and I know that how much work and endeavour and emotion goes into this. And I don't want to be, in some respects, I don't want to be perceived as biased before the thing takes place. Let it take its course. I want these guys to go out there and the best man to win. I don't want to taint or direct or influence opinions in that respect. I think my job is to try and call the matches unbiasedly, and to call the matches, I call what I see. I do have strong opinions on how I think the matches could play out. I think what I will say, I'll give you some idea of that. I think these matches are a very, very good example of matches that are difficult to predict, and I love that about them. I think with the assembly of the men we've got here, the guys that have actually come here to compete, the arm wrestling world has formed strong opinions, emotionally based opinions. They're invested in this thing a great deal, which is fabulous for our sport. It's brilliant for the game. That so many people are so enthusiastic about how our sport is fantastic. We've seen a genuine crossover of late. So we've seen guys from other sports, from strongman, from bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, fight sports, you name it, they're starting to open their eyes and pay attention to the sport of arm wrestling. That's wonderful, particularly since the pandemic. It's really, there's been a focus on arm wrestling. largely influenced by this influx of crossover athletes. Larry Wheels has been a very big part of that. That's why we're here today with Core Sports and Larry Wheels, the East versus West stuff that Engin Terzi's been doing, which is fantastic. I mean, if you look at the depth of card, the talent displayed on some of the cards at the East versus West, it's been fantastic. I'm going to say that I feel we've played a big part in it with Arm Wars as well. We've put together some very strong shows on Arm Wars. We're doing things slightly different there. We're trying to create a platform for characters where people can meet the guy behind the match, meet the girl behind the match, the athletes, who they are, who is this guy, what makes them tick, where do they come from and what's their story. And then you go with them on a journey through a match and they see the thoughts and the feelings that these guys have as they compete. So that's what we're trying to do with Arm Wars. Now with the 6 guys we've got assembled here, you've got a situation where there are various pressures coming into this to play. Let's start with you, okay, and Corey. That's it. Alex's channel is what we're here for, and obviously that's the most prominent match that we're going to focus on, I'm sure, today. So with Alex and Corey West, you've got 2 very similar men. They're similar and yet very different. Similar how, you might think. Okay, well, both men are relatively new and came into the sport at a really high level because of their natural predisposition to size and strength. These aren't guys that started out at 90 kilograms and have gone through the weight classes to get where they are. If you cut this man's leg off, he weighs 90 kilos. He's a big individual. This is a naturally big man. He's a true heavyweight. And the same can be said about Corey West. You only have to see Corey, meet him. He's a very, very big man. Probably the heaviest man here, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe over 200 kilos in body weight. He's a massive individual. So you're talking about guys who are exactly where they need to be, right in that elite super heavyweight bracket, and are on a climb, on a tear. Let's chart the recent history of these 2 guys, okay? Alex came back into the sport after he'd been first seen and was a bit of a phenom in the top 8. Obviously, you can't help but notice the guy. He's a massive, good-looking, charismatic individual who's explosive and exciting. And I'm sure that he's going to go on to very big things in this game. But that was instantly recognised. And if anything, he was probably overmatched very early. So he was thrown into the lion's den right off the bat. But over time, and he took some losses and he did some impressive stuff, but it was flashes of excellence. And then he would not win the tournament, but he'd do some things in there that were like, oh my God, you used to get the classic statement. When this guy learns how to arm wrestle, people are in trouble. You know, I remember a number of the top guys hearing that. And he's such a humble individual and a sponge. He's taking all this in that, yeah, he's made those progressions. And evidenced by the fact that when he showed up at Arm Wars Reality Check in Birmingham, England, a different man got off the plane. The guy that was at that show was an absolute serial killer. I mean, we had Ryan Espy over there, would probably have represented a good match for Alex that we had seen up until that time. But the guy that got off the plane in Birmingham was a weirdo, starting to realise his full potential. And he ran through Ryan, who's a very respectable arm wrestler, world-class super heavyweight for many years, and he went through him like a chainsaw. That started to make people think, wow, something may have changed here. This guy's leveled up. So what does he do? He then goes and puts a little bit of a signature on that by absolutely murdering 2 super difficult young up-and-coming pullers. Obviously, I think Tobias is one thing, and when you pull Tobias, I'm going to say you started as the favourite in that respect. I don't know about Hermes. I think Hermes may have been one of those guys where there was a number of people thinking, you know what, Hermes may be favourite here. Hermes is extraordinarily dangerous. And your win against Sperong went a little more under the radar. People expected it. But the manner in which you cracked Hermes, I don't think anybody expected. For it to be so dominant, for you to beat him quite handily. And I don't mean that, there's no disrespect there for Hermes. Hermes is a beast. The guy's an exceptional arm wrestler. But the fact of the matter on that day, he was handily beaten. And what that does show, it outlines potential. So then we take a pause and we go to the other side of the Atlantic, and you've got a guy called Corey West. And this fella looks like he was born at 6'3". I mean, he was just, when you look at pictures of him at school, he was massive. He was the kid in school that was a giant, a naturally big man. And the same thing's taking place. He's getting better and better and more exposed to the sport and more professional in his approach. And he's calming down and he's getting more well-rounded as an arm wrestler. And we're starting to see an evolution of technique. And the word on the streets is that this guy's becoming really difficult to top roll. He's got a huge, thick hand. And we see him start to take some pretty big name matches. Most recently, a multiple national, European and world champion in Krasimir Kostadinov. And he decimated Krasi. I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody beat Krasi easier than that. I mean, the only guy that I've seen go through Krasi at that rate was Vitaly Lalatin, who is another behemoth, another giant, and right at the top of the game. So what that did is underline that Corey West has some serious venom. This is a guy you've got to take seriously. Over here, Alex has a little bump in the road when he faces Dave Chafee. I'm going to say personally, looking at you here today, mate, you look like a different man than the dude that pulled Dave Chafee. That's up to you. You can answer that yourself. But you look it. And when I saw you pull Dave, and I remember the guy that showed, in fact, I think you were bigger at reality check than now you looked. At reality check, you looked ridiculous big. Here, you're on the way to that again. But you're definitely bigger than you were when you pulled Dave Chafee.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I think you've got a fascinating clash of styles here. Because with Corey the Gorilla West, you've got a guy that obviously is looking to keep this match close. He wants it to happen in a phone booth. He wants it all tight and close. With Alex, you're looking at a guy who's known for that big, booming, explosive top roll. So it's like a weaponized, gigantic top roller against a guy that's amazing at shutting down top rolls. What do you want? This is exciting stuff. But there's a flip side to that coin. And the flip side is as simple as this. If either one of these guys gets to the position that they want to be in, does the other athlete have a counter? Because what we've seen from them is that they're devastating finishers. They're too big and too powerful. It's like the guy who plays tennis and he's got the incredible serve. If he doesn't hit the net, you're usually fucked. And that's what we're looking at. Can these guys put the brakes on when they're hit that hard? Can anybody put the brakes on when they're hit that hard? So it's very much a knife edge. Who gets off first? And if they do get hit, who can keep their head and make those refinements, those incremental adjustments, the small changes which can lead to a change in their fortunes. And I think that's what you're going to see. For Alex, it's another learning experience. It's another growing opportunity. What I would say to Corey, probably more so, I'm going to say for Corey and Alex than anybody else on the card, is that they're in their infancy as an elite puller. So I know I've been there from an athlete's perspective, and I know that if you don't get the result, it hurts and it really grates on you and it upsets you badly. But you've got to try and understand as well that whatever the result here, it's the start of this thing, not the end for these guys. For Corey and for Alex, they're just getting warmed up. We're seeing hints of where these guys can go, and there's a lot of evolution there, a lot of refinement, a lot of roundedness to go into the game. So when the bullets start flying and it gets real, and that will happen tomorrow, everybody's nerves are going to be jangling and everybody's going to be a little on fire, and that 1 hour before you start to feel tired when you know you're not tired, and that wrist injury that you haven't felt for 3 years suddenly comes back for no apparent reason. You know what I'm saying? We've all been there. There isn't a pain in your elbow till 10 minutes before you go to the table, and then you pick up a can of Coke and you're like, oh shit. You know, that's the kind of phantom stuff that comes out of left field. And it's just being able to take a breath, calm down, and trust in yourself and trust in what you've done and let it fall. Let's see where it goes.
Wow, amazing. We could sit here and listen to you for hours, Neil. Neil, I will actually task you with some hard and serious questions,
Sure.
and who better than you to answer these? So,
No problem.
first of all, you were talking about the arm wrestling growth.
Yeah.
So we are seeing exponential growth in the sport. How do you see arm wrestling evolving in the next 3 to 5 years? And what is your personal opinion about the most important factor for arm wrestling growth?
Okay, I'm going to answer probably this two ways. I don't think there is one defined path for the sport of arm wrestling. I think there are options. And I think actually that the situation that we've just gone through with the pandemic, if it's given us anything, that is what it's given us. It's shown us that there are very different avenues in the sport of arm wrestling. We'd seen that before, just in a clear, distinct main draw competition, super match arm wrestling. I think now there is probably more of an acceptance of super match arm wrestling as the absolute elite than there has ever been. I think everybody, even the die-hard WAF guys like myself, still appreciate that if you want to know who is the absolute best, it's got to be one man versus one man, one girl versus one girl on any given day over a set duration of matches. I would like to see that standardized, personally. I think that 6 rounds is the correct duration. I don't personally think that there is a problem with having a draw on a day. And if the guys want to contest the silver bullet match, why is that a problem? Everybody thinks, I don't see it as a problem. I really don't. I think a draw is not a bad thing. I think sometimes it just gives you an immediate rematch. And if the guys are that close that they draw spot on 3-3, who the hell doesn't want to see that again? I mean, everybody wants to see that again, So it's from a sort of promotional and marketing angle, and that's where arm wrestling needs to be smarter. We need to wake up to that. Our sport, in that respect, is in its infancy. I know I've been banging the drum on that one for a lot of years, but we need to be wise and we need to market, learn, take the initiative in some areas, but also learn from the mistakes and the evolution of other major, more established sports. Ideally ones that have some real distinct parallels to our own. So the UFC would be a good example, and the way that that's grown and the way that they market things. I think that all sports are very character driven, very character led. Perfect example of that is being from the pandemic. Let me draw you an example. I spent my career competing in the World Arm Wrestling Federation, and for a long period of time I was one of the best in the world at my weight class. But it always used to be a little upsetting that you'd go to the competition and at that time you were a number, you weren't even a name. So it would be number 2166, England to table 4 in the men's 85 kilos. And you used to think, wow, you're a sheep, you're being farmed through this thing. Now, if you're a guy you're a person that's sat in the crowd watching that, how can you possibly identify with these guys? They've got no platform to show you themselves. There's no opportunity to see themselves. So the next obvious step is that the guys who excel in the grassroots format of arm wrestling, main draw, formalized tournament, where you're coming from that step of, I am a regional champion, I am a national champion, I am an international champion, I am a continental champion, I'm the world champion in amateur main draw, would then be moved on to, I am a professional arm wrestler and I compete in this elite bracket of arm wrestling. Where in that elite bracket of arm wrestling, you're with the big dogs. That's where it's really serious, and there's a very focused, professional approach to the sport where guys are often going into training camps like a fighter. So they would train for a 3-month period with the specific focus on an athlete and their approach to the sport. Okay, I am training for this guy and he's a dead wrist presser. He's fast, he's explosive. Okay, I'm training for this guy. He's a hook puller. He's not so fast. You're breaking it down and you train different ways for different people. Those are the levels that I think are represented in the sport. So to wind that back in and go to the question more fully, I think that the future of the sport, from my perspective, that I would like to see is a resurgence of main draw arm wrestling as the grassroots. I don't believe that every place in the world necessarily needs to run supermatch elite arm wrestling for guys that are not really of that caliber from either an entertainment perspective, so they're not really characters, or an extremely high level crowd draw. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. There are, every weekend, tournaments taking place all over the place where there are nameless, faceless guys who are not necessarily at any kind of level, and they're doing super matches, and that's fine, but I think that's a bit of fun. What I would like to say to people is, cut your teeth in the main draw competitions. Go out there and earn your reputation, earn your stripes where you need to. It's good for you to do that. Go out and get yourself well-rounded. Travel, pull in different places, pull against different guys, and your level will increase exponentially if you do that. Once you reach a certain level, then look to move to the next level and that logical step. That's my honest opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Alex, of course, we did a lot of interviews in these days, so I'll a little bit focus more.
Oh, come on! Today I have a guest, and I have a pleasure to hear everything. Because honestly, I just have even nothing to add, because I agree totally with everything which Neil says. Yeah,
it's literally the voice of truth.
Yeah, because like it's no better way how Neil already explained. When you go to amateurs, you go into the championship, and you pull with different hands. Yeah. And to find, for example, we are the city, or who is the strongest of the country. Okay, we have this and this man, and they have a super match, like 6 rounds, and they already prepared for themselves and find who is the strongest. So also the same situation on who is the strongest in the world. Mm-hmm. So it's a cool that arm wrestling growing up, and the science of arm wrestling also developed, and we now where we are, and it's cool that when I hear something like Neil say that, I believe that arm wrestling has a big future.
Yeah, it will be very important also for the sport. You guys, the athletes, you have to become pillars, social media pillars. You have to be known, you have to be athletes like Conor did, like Khabib did, like all the other guys.
Absolutely. This is the next point, guys. There are a subset of arm wrestlers, and I often get asked about the question, who do you have to arm wars? How do you get involved with arm wars? Okay, I'll tell you how. So we react to arm wars like the UFC would. So what I look at there is, we've got the elite guys, the killers, the guys that are just a bad mother, just a bad dude. This guy, Devon, Sasho Andreev, Krasimir, Martial, the list goes on, Bojidar, Beast, all the guys that are just weirdos. Below that, you got another set of guys who are really, really good arm wrestlers, but might not be the elite guys, but they're very versatile and they're entertaining as hell. And they are playing a really good role, a key important role in the production of an arm wrestling show that is going to be watched by non-arm wrestlers. Because if the sport of arm wrestling is to grow, it has to attract new viewers. There's only so many arm wrestlers in the world, and really we need other guys to come. If you're into powerlifting, if you're into strength sports generally, you're probably going to like arm wrestling. Yeah. If you're into fight sports, you're probably going to like arm wrestling, because it has elements of both. But to bring those guys in, we need to show them the characters. We need to show the guy that you can sit in front of a camera, ask a question, boom, they're off. And they're engaging and interesting. It's not an accident that Devon Larratt is the draw in arm wrestling, because we're talking about a 6'5" special forces soldier who, when you talk to him, is quite clearly a very unique character. The man has layers of unique, and he can also arm wrestle his ass off. So to sort of put the finer point on it, if you can find an arm wrestler who is really good, doesn't have to be the best in the world, but really good, really versatile, so you'll see him pull against a myriad of opponents in different positions, you're showing the diversity of the sport, the diversity of its technical range, in an entertaining and engaging manner, where the viewer can come in and identify with a character. It may be someone who's quiet but can talk in a certain manner. They'll just tell you about their approach, like a John Brezink type character. It may be someone like Travis Bajan, who's a loudmouth, gregarious, aggressive, super in your face character. You take your pick who you like, who's your favourite. It may be someone right in the middle of those. But we need to show a representation of the characters that make our sport great. And those guys underpin the elite elites, and that's the show. 2 or 3 guys that are at that second tier, third tier level, and then when you get to the main event, it is the main event. One of my closest friends in the game is Engin Terzi, who commands respect. The guy is a magnificent arm wrestler. He's a master arm wrestler, undeniably. If I had one bit of advice to give to Engin, it would be that with the East versus West shows, he needs to just take his foot off the throttle a little bit. And what I mean by that is, he is so obsessed with the sport and loves the sport so much, and he really does, that he will want to do the very best matches in the world all on one weekend. Like, you got like 50 matches, but long-term sustainability, that is difficult. It's very difficult. Also, soon, if you continue at that rate, you will run out of matches. Yeah. You know, you will run out of really options that the crowds want to see. Yeah. So I would say that put an undercard on, have a solid card, but use a number of names, make it more commercially and financially viable, allow a breeding ground for these other guys to be seen. So, oh yeah, I saw this kid before. He was on the East versus West undercard. He was really strong. And then 3 matches that are bangers. 3 matches the caliber of what he's putting on 20 right now. And I'm not saying that to detract from arm wrestling, guys. I'm saying that to help arm wrestling. If you understand what I'm getting at there, that will allow you to see, you'll have a new crop of guys coming through who people who are non-arm wrestlers have the opportunity to have a little look at. They're going to watch the show because this guy's later in the day and Devon's later in the day. Jerry Cadorette, all the usual suspects are coming. But while they're waiting for those, they get to see, oh, this new guy, I didn't know about him. But he looks good, actually, I like him. I'd like to see him again. And suddenly, you've got that new crop of guys. The next tier are coming. So it's a constant evolving process where your feeder system is coming into the sport. And that's what it needs, really.
Yeah, that is true. And you spoke about Alex, and you shared your opinion on him, but we did it off camera. I know you hold him to a very high regard. Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate on that and why?
Yes, I think that Alex is. I touched upon it earlier on. There are guys. We got some of them competing here today. I'm not going to sort of pick on individuals, but if you look at, let's say, Marcio and Irakli, okay. You look at Irakli, guy that started in the 70-75 kilo class, rock strong, one of the best in that, and he's a big frame dude. So he's got the opportunity to go up through the weight classes, and natural progression, he does that, he grows, he gets bigger, he develops, he's looking for tougher challenges, and he goes up. Marcio started pulling 85 kilos back in the day, progressed up through the weight classes, the usual situation, and a fabulous arm wrestler, very well rounded, very explosive. But they are not natural giants. They are not born monsters. In another area of my life, I commentate professional strongman. And you've got a lot of guys from all over the world that come into that game and get as big and as strong as they possibly can. Then you get Thor Bjornsson. Then you get Brian Shaw. And a very good friend of mine who's respected as one of the best strongmen of recent times is Eddie Hall. But if you sat Ed down any given day and say, do you feel like you've got the same advantages as Hapthor, Tom Stoltman, Brian Shaw? He'll immediately tell you, absolutely not. I'm competing against a natural giant, a guy with God-given gifts and athleticism. There he is, and his name's Alex Kurdecha. And if you don't believe in this guy, you will do soon, because he's not going anywhere, he's getting better, and he's not a dummy. This is a smart man, and he's learning, and he's very aware of himself, and he's very aware of that potential. And all I've done is watched him and appreciate that. When you're with someone that you can see that natural potential in, it's exciting. When I first came across Devon Larratt, I had exactly that same feeling. The first time I met him, I thought, that kid's different. That is where No Limits came from. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, and I say the same thing to him. My approach to arm wrestling was a little different. The concept of arm wrestling to me is different. Everybody gravitates towards their natural strength, their predisposed advantage in the game. I was never going to enhance myself, just my approach. Everybody does their own thing. We're all individuals. You take your own approach. For me, my approach was just, I was naturally trained. I was very appreciative, therefore, that I was not going to be the strongest arm wrestler. But I had a great deal of fast twitch. I had certain weapons. My wrist was very, very strong. I was very quick, and I was very well rounded. So I tried to devise a set of techniques, fundamental technical prerequisites that would allow me to fire silver bullets. And silver bullets drop monsters.
Mm-hmm.
All you've got to be is accurate. Sometimes you miss. If you miss, you're fucked. You get ripped to pieces. But when you hit the guy, that's cool. That's special and it's nice. Now, a nice experiment for me is when you take someone that's way better than me, that's got the advantages, the size, the scale, the strength that I didn't have, and teach that guy to wrestle like me. So one of the strongest guys in the room wrestles like a weaker guy with good technique. Then you got an animal. You got something to be feared. And that's exciting. So the more you can weaponize somebody like that with elusive technique, I would be fascinated to see the results. It would be like, wow, scary stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Neil, the fatal question. So, what is your current top 5 now and all of the time? But I want to ask you this: does the world ranking of arm wrestling, is it important? Does it have a meaning, or we shouldn't just really look into it? Like, what do you think about it? Especially because in the last few months, like, it has gone upside down. Like every few months, like it's changing so much. It has never been like that. Please elaborate on that.
Okay, I'll start with the last part. So the rankings. We don't really have a solid ranking system nor a methodology to achieve it right now, because people are competing under. We don't have any controlled environment, which is the fundamental prerequisite of achieving that. So you would need a standardized format, set of rules, criteria in order to achieve it. It would also need to be that all the information was drawn out of that controlled environment. So one-on-one competition, not a result in a main draw tournament here, there, or everywhere. When you're in the sport and you've been in the sport for a long period of time, you're very appreciative of the nuance of why. It's really obvious, but it can appear a little distant to people who are not involved in the sport. What I would say is that a lot of negativity comes in about the rankings. We say, the rankings are shit. The rankings don't mean this. But what they do is they evoke emotion. They create passion. People are concerned about the rankings because they care. And if they care and it makes them invested in our sport, how is that a bad thing? Surely the benefit outweighs the negative, the advantage outweighs the negative. So for me, if a guy wants to even just contemplate who is the best guy at any given time, that's good. That's what we all do. We're here doing this. I'm going to do it just like any other fan. We've got all our opinions on what's going to happen. And the reality is nobody really knows. There's a lot of supposition. There's a lot of consideration. But however deeply a bookmaker goes into the form guide, it's still gambling, right? You know what I mean? So there's no written rule on who wins. I just think if you were truly invested in the ranking system, then you would need to get some kind of control. I'm not sure that's attainable. I think there's still this little power struggle going on for people that perceive they can do things a certain way, and it's got to be one way or another. We're a way away from getting there yet, but who knows? If the top leagues that are running this show, where these guys compete, and it would be good if these guys can compete quite freely. With Arm Wars, we don't restrict. I mean, Alex knows. Well, I want Alex to go out and pull. He's one of our champions. He won the Reality Check Super Heavyweight title. I want Alex to then come here and earn money. We're trying to raise his profile so that he gets bigger matches, can earn money from that. And we work on his profile, and I like him to call to me and say, hey, you know what, Neil, I want to pull in Arm Wars again. I want another profile boost. I want to get involved in this. I want to show my character more and give myself more diversity. So that's a different look. Now, on the, what do you want me to do? Best of all time?
So,
Top 5 or now?
okay, let's do both.
Okay. So, the best of all time, for me, to boil it down to 5 individual guys is extraordinarily challenging, because the criteria, I just talked a moment about control. That's extremely difficult to do when you're in a situation where you're measuring across different eras, across different times. So you can only judge them on the people they were competing against at that time. And if I was going to go into my absolute top 5 of all time based on just merit, it may be different to this. There's a little bit of personal bias in this. Just guys that I thought performed remarkable functions and have performed remarkable functions. Number 1, underlined, capital letters, nobody close. John Brasink Jr., USA. It has been my honor and pleasure and privilege to be close friends with this guy in our sport, a sport that I love and I'm obsessed with. It's like you're living in the time of Achilles, for Christ's sake. The guy is amazing. I've watched him decade to decade compete across weight categories against the most diverse, technically challenging, giant, fast, slow, powerful, the good, the bad, and the ugliest. And it doesn't matter. Bring who you like. That guy on his best day was the man, is the man, and in my eyes will never be surpassed as the man. Now it gets tough. As soon as you take that step down, hard. Criteria you start to look at then, are we talking about, if we're going all time, we're talking about left hand, right hand? We're talking about one hand? Are we talking about that pinnacle of excellence on one arm for a period of time? How long? Are we talking about natural athletes, or are we talking about super modified? These are all questions that come in. Let's just go for a subset of guys that I think are truly, truly exceptional. Truly exceptional. And as we go through them, I'll tell you why. And the second guy on my list would probably be Engin Terzi. And why he would be right there is because Engin is remarkable on both arms, left and right arm, incredibly effective on both left and right arm, across multiple weight classes, very well travelled. The weight classes that he competed within and has been victorious within are really hard. I mean, deep, thick classes. At the time when he was at his strongest, he was extraordinarily strong on both arms, and he's continuing now to pull well. So Engin is right there in that spot. Nowhere near as far away as John is from the others, in my opinion. I've got a joint second, and it's a weirder choice. This guy is not as obsessed as Engin, but he's a unicorn. He's a weirdo. He's a one-off freak who achieved incredible things even on his very, very best day, surpassing Engin on level playing field in the same weight class at the same time. Svetan Gashevsky of Bulgaria. Technical genius. One-off. A guy with poor leverage, pretty short arm, pretty small hand, but an incredible diversity, will to win. Someone who's created multiple world champions, crafted world champions, as has Engin. So those two guys, for different reasons, sit right there in my number 2 spot. Again, as you take these steps down, unbelievably hard. Unbelievably hard. For me, I would like to think that the guys who sit below, you could put sort of 3 or 4 guys across the 3rd place spot, and it'd be hard to separate them. But what I'd be looking for in this would be someone who has been at the peak of the sport for a very, very long period of time, has shown a great deal of diversity. So guys like, let's say, Arsene Liliev, why Arsene wouldn't feature is because it was a short period of time, it was devastating for that period of time, usually one way, blistering top roll, job done, over. Similarly, Krasimir Kostadinov, great arm wrestler, but one trick pony in many ways. Goes one way and you get your measured quantity. The guys that go above that for me are the guys that are extremely well-rounded over many, many, many years against massive competition. So start to look at guys who fall into that bracket. Guys like Dave Patton, who if you top roll, he'd top roll with you. If you hook, he'd hook with you. You know, those guys are considerations there. Marcio Barboza is a massively underrated arm wrestler. Marcio is incredibly technical, incredibly well-rounded. Name me a bad loss that guy's had. He just doesn't have any bad losses on his record. You know, he's another guy who I feel personally, from my biased standpoint, doesn't get the respect that he so clearly deserves. I mean, he's a magnificent arm wrestler, you know. So he's another guy that falls right in there. Another dude that I feel like has to be in that sort of level playing 3rd place spot for just wow factor. One arm, pinnacle, what he did for the sport, what he brought to the sport, Andrew Cobra Rhodes, the sport's first genuine global superstar, where his aura arrived in the room 20 minutes before the man himself. When you used to go to the World Arm Wrestling Championships, he was the first of the superstar North Americans to step out and year after year be the headline attraction of the World Arm Wrestling Federation, where everybody walked into the room, they were like, that guy even smells good. Everything about him. He looked smart. He looked like he was walking on air. He'd walk in there with a swag and an attitude. He'd arm wrestle and entertain you while doing it. He'd speak to his opponents during the matches. I'll never forget in Vladikavkaz 99, that was possibly the singularly most impressive arm wrestling demonstration of a small man going through anything and everyone that breathed that I've ever seen. He was a terror at the table. Amazing. So Rhodes gets a nod. He's right there as well. I'm a huge fan of naturally trained athletes who are genetic weirdos. And on that, I'm going to give you one name, Andreas Rundström, Sweden. Incredible. Totally naturally trained, didn't really focus on the sport, couldn't give a shit, didn't train much, show up and beat the piss out of Georgians at 110 kilos for a job. Just would show up and smash everyone. When you go to the World Championships and the whole of the Russian and Georgian team as he walks past go, that means something. They know that that's a bad man right there who walked past, you know. So he's right there as well. Later below at number 4, I'm going to go with John Walker, USA. Guy who was a dominant force. He was the John Brzezink's daddy. You asked John about Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker at 50 years old went into a hook match at the Yukon Jack with John Brezink, and it was entertaining, it was still on, and he pushed hard. John Walker, quiet man, unbelievable ability. Absolutely unbelievable. Getting hard now. And if you ask me this question another day, I'll probably give you another subset of guys because my God, it's getting hard. But I'm going to give this to another weirdo factor, a one-off, a guy that's with one arrow crafted himself an incredible career doing the same thing over and over again, and that's Jerry Cadorette. And why Jerry Cadorette? I mean, it's a dead wrist press. Is it even a move? I'm joking. Jerry's a good dude, mate. I love him. But I think Jerry, again, over years, if you chart back that guy's career, he's beaten the very best of the best on any given day a lot with one style. So it's not like you walk in there and don't know what's coming. You know, your John Brzezinks, your Ron Bass, your Travis Pagans, you name it, he's beaten them. And he's beaten them when they walked in there knowing exactly what they faced. Guys, we might have to do a second sitting here because
we have to go.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes.
What time is it?
It's 5 to 7.
Yeah, so we
And we have to be down at 7.
Yeah, we're going to be in reception at 7, so...
Okay, we will resume later?
Yeah, okay.
So guys, here we are the next day actually, because yesterday we had to rush through the press conference. So here we are again with Neil and Alex. So let's pick up where we left, which was, we covered the top 5 best of all time. Very hard question. Now let's transition to the
and
top
just to
5.
sort of recap, the scope of that, you've got guys that are, I know I've got a couple in each position, apart from the one spot, but they were guys from the past arm wrestlers, and apologies to Engin because I know he's still active, but in my eyes, Engin is not really still active.
Yeah.
I'm judging him on the past. Svetan, same situation. If we move, are we ready to move on to the present day? Did I do
Actually,
all
yes.
Okay, so my number 1 present day is actually Devon Larratt.
Mm-hmm.
Devon Larratt is also the guy on this list of current guys that are super active now who also transcend and go into the all-time greats list, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And that is for a number of reasons. I know that in many people's mind that may be an unpopular comment because of the passion and the opinion that's around Devon. You know, you're either a fan, he's polarising in that respect. But I've had the honour and the pleasure of watching Devon do what he does against guys whose level I was very, very, very aware of at that time. And the manner in which he did it. First out of the gate, I'm very well positioned to know the exact situation when he pulled John in 2008. Mm-hmm. That's why I speak with such conviction and confidence, because there's supposition and there's comment and people say different things and the fans get up, you know, they get things twisted. I don't need anybody to fill me in on the details. I was involved with the conversations, probably more than anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I know exactly what happened and I know exactly who was where and what was going on. Devon Larratt's really good. Really, really good. When the guy comes ready, he's dangerous. Why he's so good, in my opinion, his versatility is exceptional. His openness is exceptional. He is extremely well-rounded to a point where it goes above his strength level. The reason I gave him the moniker No Limits is because I genuinely believe that if you were to design an arm wrestler, it's not far off the perfect arm wrestler. Most of the weight distribution in his upper body, very long levers, extraordinary strength through the joints. It's like I said before, the name came from Archimedes' law, combined with potential. If you give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum strong enough, I will move the world. Devon Larratt has moved the world in the sport of arm wrestling. Look at us, look where we are, look what. Yesterday we had a press conference with 21,000 people at one point tuning in live for arm wrestling. I mean, you need any evidence that this guy's moved the world? Come on. Devon Larratt would go in for me, also into the all-time top 5. Forget right now. All-time top 5, he's right in there. It's also, like I said before, once you get past that, it's extremely difficult to pinpoint guys based on criteria that I mentioned yesterday. If you're judging across both arms or a single arm for a period of time of the guys who are active now. For example, if you were going with a guy that was just at a pinnacle level at some point in his career, I actually believe that Oleg Jok represents a truly remarkable entity within the sport of arm wrestling. A relatively small athlete who, prior to the absolutely tragic accident involving Andre, Oleg's father, and himself, was, I believe, pound for pound, the pinnacle of left arm wrestling we've ever seen. So surely the guy must get an honourable mention here without a shadow of a doubt. If you're talking about the guys that I'd rate slightly higher from the guys who are active today, it would just be because his skill is in one arm. I think if you look at Levan Saginashvili, let's not underestimate from a super heavyweight perspective how good this man is. When you speak to Levan Saginashvili, who I've always found in every dealings I've had with the guy to be a super genuine, super warm, very humble, very respectful, very articulate, often funny, engaging and endearing individual. He really is. I'm a huge fan of this man. He's extremely committed and extremely passionate to the pursuit of the sport, and he speaks with confidence and conviction. When he says that he would like to go and finish his career without losing a pin, I love that attitude. It's funny, I said it a number of times this week and I'm going to say it again. People will see Levan Saginashvili and Devon Larratt as very different, polar opposite characters, and yet they are so similar. There are so many parallels in terms of the objectives that they put in their mind and the pressure that they knowingly and openly apply to themselves. Levan didn't have to come out and say, I want to finish my career without losing a pin. He didn't have to come on my podcast a while back and say, I would like to pull 2 or 3 of these top guys on the same night. This is, you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
That's application of people who would shirk that pressure, shy away from that responsibility, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He doesn't. He welcomes it. He creates it. He says, yeah, I want to do that. Can he do it? I don't know. But the fact that the guy's prepared to find out, I think is cool as fuck.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I love it. I think that's absolutely awesome. And in a combat and strength sport, who do you want as your champions, guys? I want that guy. Mm-hmm. You might not like him, he might be polarizing, but I want that guy that makes me want to talk about it, makes me want to be invested in the sport. Levan Saginashvili is on the right arm, as we're about to find out, an absolute weapon. He may be representative of the pinnacle in terms of physical strength that we have seen. I would need somebody more knowledgeable than me to tell me about how good that man is technically, because I can't tell you. And the reason why is because nobody's strong enough to slow him down. So anybody that comes to me and says, oh, he's super technical, he's not super technical, how do we know? And I'm not talking about matches in a practice table. On a practice table, there's a lot of differences. When you see the fibre of the fabric is when things haven't gone right. When you see the fibre of the fabric on how good someone is when they're at the red line and beyond the red line. When you're arm wrestling in a situation where everything that you want to be in play, those fundamental strengths are no longer intact and are in a terrible state. And you're having to go deep into your reserves, your arsenal of weaponry, the things that you can apply in the match, which you may not be used to. And a lot of the stuff that I've talked about when I'm speaking of scenarios in tonight's match comes down to that. Where do those scenarios lie? Those scenarios lie in the camp that believes that, you know, David and Goliath is a King Fairy story, and tonight Levan Saginashvili is going to be too far in front from a strength perspective, and unfortunately, for all the will, for all the passion, for all the public support that Devon Larratt has got, it will not matter, because if a man is too strong, he's too strong. But no one is speaking about the fact that, are we going to see more from Levan Saginashvili than we've ever done before? Isn't it an exciting prospect to think that if Devon gets the brakes on and does compromise one of these acidly strong fundamentals on Levan, will we see something from Levan that nobody else has been able to bring out? I love that possibility. I love that might happen. I'm praying that might happen, not because I want Devon to win or Levan to win, more because I'd love to see arm wrestling, when more eyeballs are on it than ever before, at its best. And arm wrestling's at its best when it's a war. You know, that's when we see what we all come to see. That's when the essence of arm wrestling is right there for the person who's not an arm wrestler. That's when you can see why we get up, why this man gets up and trains his ass off every day. Mm-hmm. I think Levan Saginashvili on the left arm is also right there at that pinnacle. and I put Levon very, very highly on my list of active men now. I mean, he's right there, isn't he? You know, there's no doubt about it. If you're talking about guys that are still active, that are on the all-time greats list, Saganashvili's got to go right there, right near the top. He's the one, he's the two. Take your pick. Guy's right there. Definitive moment for those two arm wrestlers from a right-hand measure is coming tonight. But that's why I have that parity between them at 1 and 2, because they're both excellent arm wrestlers on both arms. Forget just level. Technical prowess, well-roundedness, and level together as a package is more important to me. And I believe that both men demonstrate that very well. Another guy who I'm going to put in the mix, who actively right now, I'm going to say I believe is pound for pound the very best arm wrestler in the world. Okay? I'll say that again, so everybody heard me. In my opinion, this guy, when he shows up in his very best shape, is arguably my favourite active arm wrestler in the world right now. I love this dude. I love everything he represents. The fact that he's from a foreign country, I don't know what he says, and whilst I've met him many times, I can't say I've ever had a conversation with him because I'm not intelligent enough to speak his language. I wish I was. I wish I did understand what he's saying, because I think there's a lot there in this man. He's a very impressive character. From an arm wrestling perspective, I think he's magnificent. And his name's Yevgeny Prudnik. And in my opinion, that guy is venom. He's an absolute monster. He has it all. Maybe as he gets more prepped, and if he can move himself away from the pressure of the comments, because he often finds himself in that John Brzenk role where he's facing monsters. And we've talked a lot, all the people with the voice in arm wrestling, whether we're right, whether we're wrong, we're all saying this is the time of giants. It's not possible. If John Brzenk came back and was dropped, if you airdropped a prime John into this environment, could he do what John can do? And most people will say no, he could not, because Levon Saganashvili exists and he never did before. Now you tell me, is that the case? I don't know. We'll never know. That's the beauty of this. It's, you know, could Rocky Marciano have knocked out Mike, you know what I mean? Could Mike Tyson have knocked out Muhammad Ali? We don't know, but everybody wants to know, and everybody's got a lot to say. We'll never know, but that's the beauty of things. Could a prime John Brzenk beat a prime Levon Saganashvili, beat this guy? Could he walk in tonight and smack this guy around? Would your mind be blown if he could do that? But think about it. A lot of those prime years of John Brzenk were when the man weighed 90 kilos, 100 kilos, at the very max 110 kilos. Yevgeny Prudnik is that big. He was a guy that kicked off in the 90 kilo class, that went up to the 100. Now we see him at 110, 115. Is he a giant? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And yet, when he matches with some of these giants, you don't know whether he can beat their ass. Neither do they. That's fucking cool. Because this is the time of giants. And that man may be the nearest thing in the world to a giant slayer. You know what I mean? Yevgeny Prudnik is a unicorn. And for me, he is a guy that goes right into that list. Very, very, very high up. I've got him at number 3. In terms of people I want to include in this list also, I think we get carried away with talking about just that all-time great, or the greats of the current 5, the top 5 being the top 5 at super heavyweight, at overall level. I find that difficult because I used to operate at middleweight, and I pay a lot of respect to the guys that aren't necessarily a super heavyweight, but are nevertheless a magnificent arm wrestler. Someone who I believe has it all. And the guy that comes in at number 4 for me is exactly that guy. He lives in Bulgaria, and his name is Superstar Božidar Simeonov. And I think he is absolutely wonderful. This kid is young, he's a baby, he's only going to get better. He's strong beyond friggin' reason. You watch who he can mix it up with and where he can mix it up with them. He can mix it up anywhere you like. He belies his power. Božidar does not look that strong. You look at him and you think, Really? That guy? That's the guy that can give Krasimir Kostadinov trouble. Krasimir Kostadinov is a beast. People don't realize how good that guy is. He's mega. He's one of the best to ever do it. And if you speak to Krasimir Kostadinov, he will tell you in no uncertain terms how good Bozhidar Simonov is. For me, he's like the second coming of Svetan. He's not got great leverage, but he's able to sort of articulate that on an arm wrestling table like with a natural finesse, a style, and a passion, which to me personally is so appealing. Bozhidar, number 4. Love that kid. Number 5. God damn, this is difficult. For me, very, very hard. Very, very hard. Because there are so many guys that are so very deserving. But I'm going to go with the other guy that, from a guy who's really active right now, and I think is, even now I'm changing in my mind. My mind's flip-flacking. I've got 3 guys on the short list.
Yeah, it is very hard.
It's really hard because I love these men, and they're all, we're talking incredibly fine margins between where you're at. And I kind of want to lean towards showing some respect to the smaller guys again. That is difficult. Fuck it, I'm going to go anyway. And I'll tell you why. Mindaugas Terasaitis. Okay? And why I'm going here is Mindaugas Terasaitis is a lightweight guy. Who the hell talks about lightweights? Not many. Mindaugas Terasaitis is naturally trained. I 110% believe that this is not a man who's in any way running on super unleaded. Mm-hmm. I think he's clean, and he's a fascinating, supremely technical arm wrestler. Once again, ticks the criteria of extraordinarily impressive on both hands. Left hand, right hand, take your pick, doesn't matter. I may be biased in some respects because I've spent a lot of time with this guy and I've got inside his mind a little bit. I've listened to him talk about his approach to arm wrestling, talk about what he does. And I've also been in the room where he is starting to apply all the disparate elements of his game. From the moment the guy walks into the room, he's like a peregrine falcon. He zones in, he prepares, and then he dives on his opponent. He dives on him mentally and he dives on him physically. He'll start to break them down mentally days out. Guy, he was going to be a reality check.
Yeah.
He couldn't make it, he was gutted. I would have loved to see him in that environment. He comes back after recovering from COVID, shows up at the Iron House, and he wants to pull anyone. He's talking it up to Sandris Sedis. He's talking it up to, he can't beat Sandris Sedis. But it's just, there's no way. I've got a better chance of getting in a size 32-inch waist jeans than that motherfucker has of beating Sedis. It's not going to happen. But he's still doing it. And he's doing it not just to because Sandris is there. He wants his opponent to see how confident he is that he can smack that guy who's 6'5" and 110 kilos. And he knows that the guy he's arm wrestling tomorrow is listening to this conversation and thinking, Jesus Christ, this guy thinks he can beat this guy. How good is this dude? Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's awesome. And he continues that same turnover right into the match and tries to talk the guy to death. That was my approach. I'd always try to chip away, dripping tap. But when he gets up and the hands are closed, this guy can really arm wrestle. He's super versatile within a spectrum of comfort, which is the top roll. And he's mastered that style. He is a master top roller. And that's why Terasaitis comes in at number 5 for me. Love him. Think he's fantastic.
Okay, thanks for the list, Neil. Now this question, I will firstly ask to Alex and then I will elaborate more asking it to you.
No problem.
So, what was your experience competing in Armors and being part of the Neil project? And could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Oh, guys, it was awesome. First of all, I even tell what was before, like when I was invited. I actually much more earlier know what is this Arm Wars, but because like I said, maybe one of the first my most likable by me matches, my favorite matches, it's actually matches on Arm Wars. It's actually matches of this huge superstars like Devon Larratt, like the rest of heavyweight division, and of course I watched it. And to explain what you feel when you got on the stage of Arm Wars, when you, for example, the big huge audience watching you, they like searching every your move and help you to feel the energy of the place. It's amazing, because last time it was in the Birmingham, in the Arnold Classic Sport Festival. The whole family of arm wrestling was there. Like everyone's know you, you know everyone. You like speak about that before you find in your heart how it's increase, emotions go up, and after that you go to the stage and you like bomb, you're blowing up. You use the all energy which you accumulate before, thanks to guys, thanks to organizers, thanks to Nail, because like I said before, when you hear this brilliant voice, you're ready set up, you're ready and powerful, you know that something special will be, and you're actually the part of this, and this is amazing, totally one of my favorite events, because of feelings, emotions. It's not about the sport, it's not like you do even your personal record, for example, at the gym, but it's absolutely another level of happiness, of emotions, when you like do something best you can and you share it in the stage with your opponent, with the guys who watching you, who watching you there, who watching you by the internet on YouTube. It's fantastic, absolutely. It's one of the best events in the world, totally.
Yes, and on that note, can I just say, I think Arm Wars has the best quality production of all the events we have. It's like amazing, like the video quality, the audio quality, the way that they put the athlete on the spot, the event, the matchup is incredible. On that note also, Neil, Arm Wars made the history of the sport. I remember seeing the first few episodes in the early 2000s. You had Devin, you have Tim, you had Travis, you have the Don Underwood, that incredible, you had Richard, everybody, and it made the history of the sport, and now came back stronger than ever and is making the history of sport. What was the Arm Wars role in the history of arm wrestling, and what will it be in today's arm wrestling scene?
That's a great question, mate. Let me think. Arm Wars was my vision of how I wanted arm wrestling to be. When I was competing in the sport, I remember one particular year, I was super proud. I won national championships, some international championships, European champion and world champion in the same year. And nobody knew, nobody really had a clue that I was. Just some guy from England, you know, it didn't really matter. But to me, it was really, I was proud. It was what I dedicated my life to trying to achieve, and it was as good as I was ever going to get. It was sort of pinnacle of my potential. But I was a little upset that you hadn't got the opportunity to sort of talk about your sport, to tell people who you were, why you did this, how good arm wrestling is, what are the things that it brings to the public, the viewers. I wanted to get a platform that would facilitate that. And at that time, in 1992 in Geneva, I did a little seminar thing where I invited people. Nobody really showed up, you know, a few people that were interested, but I was just a baby talking about something they figured I didn't know anything about. My background was in fight sports, and I felt that the arm wrestling was missing a trick in terms of marketing those big names. People like Cobra Rhodes, who at that event I'd looked up to and been like, bloody hell, this guy. You had real characters there. Cobra was one of them. Sharon Remez was another. And these were guys that were unbelievable characters. Just there was an aura around these guys. I was aware of John, he was another one. Dave Patton, another one. Gary Goodridge, Richard Lucas, the list goes on. but nobody knew, and nobody really knew. Oh, Richard, have you ever heard Richard Lupka speak? No. You ever heard Gary speak? No. Right, this is shit. At that time, you've got guys like Mike Tyson, and the world's it's going crazy. Everybody loves Mike Tyson, and they love that character, and they can't get enough. If you get a soundbite with Mike Tyson, people are gonna love it, and it creates that myth and legend. It's about the character, Iron Mike Tyson, and selling that in, and it because they carry the sport of boxing. Boxing was at an all-time high at the time of Tyson because of Tyson, because they had this figurehead character. The more you shoot, the more you score. And we've got a number of guys who could be that guy, the role that Devon Larratt is currently playing. But the more people we show to the world from our sport, the greater opportunity you've got for that character, for that arm wrestler, to resonate with a subset of fans around the world. Maybe you're the humble guy. You love Richard Lupkas. You love that respectful, calm, reserved approach. Maybe you like the ultra confident, full of himself athlete like Travis Pageant. Maybe he's your guy. Take your pick, but if we don't show you that person, we don't show you what's behind it, how are you going to know? I wanted almost to be a vehicle to show, maybe to show arm wrestling that I knew what I was talking about, and that supermatch arm wrestling was the future. And we were the first promotion to take supermatch arm wrestling and say, that's how this should be done. There it is. And I had an aspiration to sell it in so that more people could see it, and I started to negotiate with Eurosport. I was lucky enough to land that deal, and it started to run. I was very proud of that, but it was pure sport. So whilst I'd got everything I wanted, the opportunity to show the arm wrestler's character was restricted because Eurosport wanted to control the format. So they said, okay, we'll do the show. This is the show. It will be either 1 hour or 50 minutes with adverts, or it will be 20 minutes with adverts. And this is how you do it. It's pure sport. There are 2 matches. You show. So it was very restrictive, prescriptive. Tells you what you can and cannot do. We know what happened next. The PAL approached me. I went to work with the PAL to try to, and they said, oh, we love what you do with super matches. We also, Igor said, oh, I love that you like super matches. I agree. That's the way to do it. We want to do the same. Would you come and match make for us? I said, yeah, absolutely. I thought Igor Mazarenko's done some amazing stuff for the sport of arm wrestling. He's been a fantastic promoter, one of the best of all time, without shadow of a doubt. Let's make no mistake about it, arm wrestling wouldn't be where it is today without Igor Mazarenko and PAL. It just wouldn't. He's done a wonderful job. I've never seen a bad promotion from the guy. I'm not personally an advocate of the super strict rules, but there are those that are. Good on them. It's a different option within the sport of arm wrestling. Great production. Hats off to the PAL and to Igor. What we wanted to do was a little different, and I had to try to be a little less selfish and think, okay, where can I put my skill set maybe into an area where they've got more money, more resource, to try to take the kind of thing that I want to do and punch that out there and get some prominence. So I worked with the UAL initially, after the PAL, and then I worked with the WAL, both of whom approached me and said, look, could you come on board and we want to use a lot of your ideas and try and push it forward. Would you share those with us? But in each instance, it was great, but frustrating, because I felt like saying, okay, if you just back me and give me the resource, I will show you exactly how you should do this. But of course, it's their baby, so they won't do that. They'll take little bits and they'll use their bits. But I felt like I had the answer, and when you diluted it, it was a weaker product, not a stronger one. After the collapse of the WAL, because of the pandemic, and that was a tragedy, let me tell you, because there were big positive plans for WL. There really were. They were making some significant changes in the right direction. It's a massive shame that happened. And Steve Kaplan's one of the straightest guys I've ever dealt with in my life. What a great individual that is. Kaplan's a wonderful bloke, really straight, not a straighter guy out there. What you see is what you get from that man, I can tell you. But But after the pandemic, I was concerned for the sport of arm wrestling. I thought, okay, this is going to be a big blow for us. How can we do something different? What can we do? And I thought, I'm going to need to get arm wars off the shelf. I need to bring it back, breathe some life back into it. So we got the old defibrillator out and awaken a sleeping giant. And I believe that's what arm wars is. But when I wake it up and breathe life into it, all of a sudden you realise that we've got other organisations. King of the Table had just come in, which is a wonderful thing for the sport of arm wrestling. They picked up the reins and were running and able to get the sport into the consciousness that I couldn't. I'm just me. They have Larry Wheels and other things that have got this big reach. So I don't want to detract from them. The opposite. I want to let them breathe. And I just said, look, if I can ever help you, you got my number. And then that's that. At the same time, I'm going to bring arm wars back, but I'm going to do something slightly different. I'm going to work towards doing arm wars my way. I'm going to do it how I wanted to do it when it was on Eurosport. The reason I walked away from the Eurosport deal was because we're 15 years, 16 years actually into the contract. I'm doing the same shows. And I keep going to the meetings every year with Sylvie and Julian and saying, hey guys, what about this? I've done that, just watch this. What do you think of this show? And they'd sit through it and say, oh, that's great, Neil. But that £7,000 that you've put into that is wasted because we're going to do it our way again. And I'm like, oh, so frustrating. So this time, no, I'm doing it my way. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And a guy's contacted me and says he wanted to make a film about me, about the strong man, about just follow me around in a year in the life of this guy. Because I'm into fight sports, strength sports, it was an opportunity. So it was going to be more based on that side of things and less arm wrestling, really, just with a sprinkling of arm wrestling in there. And when he comes over and he films for like six months or so, doing little bits, and then he sends me some footage of what he shot. And I've worked with a lot of directors, producers, cinematographers. I've never worked with anybody at this level of talent. The guy is a weirdo. He's Evgeny Prudnik with a camera. He's a frigging beast. James Statham is, you know when a guy's into something so much that they're just utterly obsessed with it? Like everything that he does, his frigging toothbrush has a camera and he knows what lens it is. And the guy's ridiculously obsessed, but he's brilliant at what he does. And he sent me some stuff over, and when I looked at it, I thought, wow, this guy's really good. So when he came to meet me again, I said, you know what, I'm flattered that you want to do a film about me, but what a film about me? Okay, I got something else. You know about arm wars? He said, yeah, arm wars is the thing you used to do. I said, well, let me just talk to you. What about if we do arm wars again? And you're involved big time, you know? What about if we become Simon and Garfunkel? He said, what are you talking about, Fatty? I said, well, Paul Simon, brilliant songwriter, but couldn't really sing that good. Art Garfunkel sounds like a friggin' angel, voice incredible, but couldn't write songs. Separately, yeah, okay, but not all there. But you put those guys on a stage together, something magical happens. That's what I thought is possible with James Statham. And that's where Arm Wars is going right now. I want to show everyone in the world the characters that we have in this game. Some of them are the very best in the world. Some of them are not. And I want to mix those guys up and put them together and throw them out there to give them a billboard, to give them an opportunity. And I want to do it differently to any other promotion. All the hassles and aggravations that I had when I was the arm wrestler, and guys would say, okay, we want you to come and sign this contract for us or do this, and then we'll own it, and we own your likeness, and we will put this out, and we own your merch, and we all own these things. And I don't want any of that. What I want to do is say, look, I want to work with you. You call me if you're interested, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to invest as much time and effort, because I'm just me. I've not got big resource. I'm just a normal guy. I'm not rich. I'm not particularly wealthy, just me. But I'm going to throw every single ounce I've got into making this thing as good as I can. We'll put a film together featuring you. I'm going to put you into a great arm wrestling match. We're going to put you into a really nice house for a week. You're going to come over, hang out, have some fun. We're going to film the living daylights out of it and produce something that documents your journey into this match and sells your character, to then boost your profile, allow you to have something that you can approach sponsors with and so on, that looks beautiful, that looks professional, so that sponsors do pay attention, and raises your profile. So then if King of the Table call you, brilliant, go pull with King of the Table. If another big promotion approaches you, no problem, go pull with them. I don't want to own anything to do with you. You're just a guy that was in one of the films, and you tell me if you want to do it again. You own you, we own us. We'll big you up and we will make you look like a star. We'll push you as far as we can. All we say is, if you want to come and pull in arm wars, let me know. You come, we'll put it together. I won't put you in a match that's not a good match. Our lifeblood is to show the best of arm wrestling. We're not too worried about ranks. That's not us. King of the Table does that. I'm not interested in that. I'm invested in arm wrestling is the big thing. And the men who are within arm wrestling feed into what I love, which is arm wrestling. You understand what I mean? So we're going to put that forward. That's our banner, is the furtherment and the growth of the sport of arm wrestling. When they throw dirt on me, when I die, if I have done that, then I did something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fuck, it always hits me when I say that. I can't.
Yeah, it is very true.
I feel your emotions.
The passion you're talking about, your eyes are getting more.
Yeah, really.
Oh my god, man.
Do we?
Oh my god,
Yeah.
let's chill a bit now.
Everyone wants to do something in his life, like to
You know what I mean?
to make something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not just live and that's it. You want to do something that like people who goes after you maybe will be motivated a little bit about you, about what you did, about your ideas, about your actions.
Yeah.
And actually, I really believe that Neil already did
It's
something
crazy,
like that.
the passion that you see in him.
Yeah,
Actually.
absolutely. And you know what? I want to add something it's not about only the arm wrestling sport. That's about his heart. Also, like you know, Mateusz Kieliszkowski in Polish Heavyweights, Mateusz Kieliszkowski. We speak with him, and he writes to me, "Oh, it's cool that you already collaborate with Neil. Great man. I like him.
Yeah.
Cool that arm wrestling going in that way.
Yeah.
I hope you will go well. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a golden man. We are lucky to have him.
Yeah.
So okay, let's go for the next question.
Sorry, I got a bit.
Yeah, I know, Neil. I know.
I wanna. That's the one, you know.
I know.
I've got two sons, and if when I'm done, if they wanted to, or if your sons wanted to, they want to be a professional arm wrestler, and I'd set the sport into a place where they could, and nobody laughed. They didn't walk into a place and say, you know, I'm an arm wrestler, and some guy says, is that even a sport? They go, whoa, you're amazing, it's good, and they can be proud that they're an arm wrestler. That's the goal. That's what if that happens, ace. That's the one, mate.
Okay. So this is gonna be interesting. I'm gonna ask for your proudest, not even victory, it might be also a loss, your proudest match, because you're also an athlete, so your proudest match that you ever had in your life, and I would like Alex to start first.
Okay, like I said before, for me, it was maybe not biggest match, but match in which nobody expect me to win. It was in top 8. I was too fresh, too young, to not experience it. And I got some experience already, and like I'm growing up and trying to do my best. And I remember, for example, the last match, it was in Poland, so in my country, and I need to show what I can. And it was Rustam Babayev. And everyone thinks that Rustam is so fast. He won with Dimat Rubin, who already won with you. So he's like the toughest opponent. He's one of the amazing hooker who know how to defeat the beast or big guy. He actually did it a lot of time. And I remember that nobody expected, even like my close friends say that, you know, it will be hard. We are believing you, do something magic, but we know how hard it is, because speed on his side, experience on his side. He's not big, but he's a very big name in arm wrestling. And that day, I'm proof for myself and for everyone that if you love what you do, if you ask yourself how to be better, and you're ready to train hard, and you're not like scared about losing, and take it like some experience which helps you to be better, so you climb into your goal, to your top. And that day I won, and that victory gives me the answer. Also gives me the feelings, you know, that when you train hard, you patiently listen what you need to do. Yeah, after that you feel, yeah, this is my place. I'm where I need to be. I'm happy. Yeah, it gives actually the feeling of happiness. So it was not like some special match in the World Arena, but it was very special match for myself, because nobody believed on myself that day, and for me it was some special. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Neil.
There are two actually, and they're weird things for different reasons. The first one, I spoke about my sort of respect for and admiration of Svetan Gashevsky, another guy I rated very highly, another two, Monster Michael Todd for different reasons, and Yoshinobu Kanai of Japan for different reasons. And myself and Yoshi, I remember once reading Yoshi put on there, they said, who is your toughest match at that time? This was pre-John Brzenk.
Okay.
And he said, by far, Neil Pickup from England. He said, every single time we meet, we have like 3-minute match. And it was ridiculous. Sometime I won, sometime he won. In fact, in Japan, in the World Championships at Japan, the first time he won, my opening round, me and him, not the opening round of the event, but we met for the first time in that event. It was an unbelievable match. We 3 minutes in, I foul. 3 minutes in, he fouls. Oh my God. Just like 4 or 5, it destroyed me actually. It was incredible. And at the end of the night, he came over and he found me. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I think I won the second match. I think I pinned him. And he had a little lady with him there, Yuki, who was his translator. And I was really gutted, and I remonstrated on the first day, because he knew and I knew that I stopped arm wrestling because I thought I pinned his ass, and he thought I pinned his ass. I went, yes, like that, and the ref didn't give it. And then we both stopped. He thought he'd lost, I thought I'd won. And then he kicked in earlier than me and got me here, and I couldn't recover, and I lost, and I was really upset. I was like, oh. And Yoshi was very typical Yoshi. He was like, sorry, walked away, and that was that. After, at the end of the night, he went on to win the event. There was like a couple of rounds left. To be truthful, could I have gone on and won and done what he did? Probably not, because my style wasn't this guy. I don't think I could have done what he did to win the title, but I do believe I beat him. Then, and maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, I don't know. But he came over and he put his world championship around my neck.
Oh, wow.
And he said, real world champion today, best today, you win me today. And I'll never forget that. It was like, wow, that was mega. But Yoshi was one of the men that were in this event. We were in Lake Tahoe, Crystal Lake. And I was really fucking strong. Really strong. And I went in there feeling like I was never going to be stronger than this. It was the year that I won the World Championships in Italy at the WAF. And on the lead up to that, I felt stupid strong. I felt like I was at my absolute peak. And I knew that in the class was Yoshi, was Svetan, was Mike, Kenny Hughes, host of other guys. But that day, towards the end of the tournament, when we got to the last few, Yoshi and Svetlana met and had an incredible 7-minute war. And people think that I only won because of that, because Michael Todd, Yoshi won that encounter, and Michael Todd then drilled Yoshi. I smashed Michael, and I won the event. What I say is, do your research, check your maths, and see who put them in the losers bracket. Svetan was in the losers bracket for a reason, and he wasn't tired then. And he went into the losers bracket like that. It wasn't a hard match. That day was my day. That's all I'm going to say.
Wow. Okay, I have the last 3 questions, and I will sinfully ask you to be a little bit more synthesizing, because we want to let Alex to chill with the room before his match. So sorry to say that, but if you could have a dream match in arm wrestling that you could choose from athletes from any era, like just fantasy, just time machine, you can pick anybody, who would you choose? Alex, you want to go first?
My last match which I want to see, and it was possible sometime before. Now it's not really possible. It's like Dennis in a prime shape versus Levan in a prime shape. So it's number one, because I remember when I was on the same stage, actually, I pulling in Vendetta that day. Levan was pulling with Dima Trubin, and Dennis was pulling with Devon. Yeah, it was a great day, so great inspiration, and they both was so powerful, so big, and I was wondering that day who is actually stronger, because that day when Levan won with Dima, a lot of guys put like a favorite Dima. Like nobody expected Levan won in that way, easily 6-0, yeah, a lot of guys. And the question between Dennis and Devon was also like fans of Dennis, of course, believe in him, but a lot of experts think that everything can be happen, you know, everything, because of his experience, because of his talent, how to find the key during every round. He can use every round. He can lose one round, but won the rest of them. He know how to do it. He's like a school of arm wrestling inside him, like with big answers of every questions, with books, with encyclopedias, you know. So I remember that day, one guy won his match and another, and I was thinking, who is actually stronger? And I was not having the answer. That's why it's a number one match for me. If you want a couple, we say 3 favorite matches.
I said 1, but if you want to name more, you can. No problem.
One more, it's probably John in a prime shape, in his best shape ever, versus Alexei Voivoda, because they have the match in the tournament. But what will be if it will be arm fight, and both will be in a best shape? So yeah, for me, that was also really interesting. And if I add one more, I want to take lightweighted guys, and for me, interesting like Cobra Rhodes in his prime versus Bozhidar Semyonov.
Oh man, yeah. I have the same I have the same what? Yeah. How good is that?
Yeah. For me, like it's because I saw that Bozhidar can do something, and Cobra just amazing in his movement, and that's the thing that's interesting for me always.
Wow.
It's my top 3.
I love that last one's ace. God, that's a good match right there, mate. Good call.
Yeah, very curious to hear your dream match.
Okay, I one of them involves me because I wanted to know. I would have liked to face, when I was at my absolute peak, for me personally, I would have loved to face Svetan Gashevsky at his absolute peak over 6 rounds at that time. I just would have loved it. I don't give a shit whether I won or lost. I just wanted that match because I feel like I would have the opportunity to try everything, and I feel like I would have learned a great deal because he was, in my opinion, a master arm wrestler. and the things he would have done to beat me, or the adjustments he would have made in the match, would have been an amazing learning experience and something I could have taken notes of. So I would love that. I would like to have seen the absolute pinnacle of Cobra Rhodes, right-handed, versus the absolute pinnacle of Engin Terzi, right-handed. I would have loved to see that, because there's always been this, oh well, and I know that Cobra used to smash Engin when Engin was maybe on the way up. That's a fact, he just did. And when the time that Engin won with Cobra, Engin was at an amazing level and Cobra wasn't Cobra. And that's no disrespect to Engin. You can't, it's not Engin's fault. He just wasn't. There's nothing you can do. And I believe that Engin at his absolute peak was something we've never seen before. As also, he was a freak. He pushed it as a package to an incredible level. Engin's an amazing puller. And I think Cobra was the same. And I think it would have been a fascinating matchup if you'd have taken the very peak of Engin Terzi against Cobra Rhodes from Vladikavkaz 99. I would have loved that match. I think it would have been incredible to watch. Absolutely incredible to watch. I also, for similar reasons, would have loved to see Gennady Fadzinov, who a lot of people don't know Gennady Fadzinov, but in terms of incredible hook, he was just stupid, just an unbelievable level. And I would have loved to see him pull Bozhidar Simeonov now. I think that will be good, because Bozhidar finds a way and he can go anywhere. He's got enough hook to stop people in the hook and yet can transition from there. And I personally never saw Gennady Fadzinov at his peak lose a hook match, ever. And that was in main draw competitions when he was pulling one after the other after the other. So him fresh for fresh when he was just pulling one other guy in that sort of 80 kilo bracket where Bozhidar lives and breathes. I think that will be, for me, for an arm wrestling purist who likes the technical aspect of the sport, I think it would have been unbelievable. I'd love to make that match.
Wow, very interesting matches. So last question, and then we'll wrap up this. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be very hard.
Okay.
What does arm wrestling mean to you? What is arm wrestling for Neil Pickup? What is arm wrestling for Alex Kurdecha? I would like Alex to start first, and then Neil can take the ball.
Like, it's really special question. For me, arm wrestling takes more and more. It's a big part of my life. And it's not just, I feel for now, for the moment, I feel that it takes more and more of my heart, of my soul, and I love this process. I find new friends. Like, arm wrestling family is like my family. I travel and spend a beautiful time with the guys who love actually the things which I love too. We share the emotions. We share like the beautiful moments of our life. We spend one of the best moments of our life, because your best moments is when you are the happiness, when you feel such happy and you share the happy with the happy people, which also like what you like to do. And I feel that it takes me more and more, and I actually like it. I love arm wrestling. It's not just a hobby for me. It was, and now I feel that it takes more and more, and it's just inside me. I'm inside the world of arm wrestling, and I feel that arm wrestling inside me. So arm wrestling, it's part of me. It's part of my life. That's what is arm wrestling meaning for me.
Wow, I'm very curious to hear what Neil will have to say.
Actually, quite warming, really, listening to Alex there, because I feel really aligned with that. Yeah, arm wrestling is exactly everything the man just said, and it's fascinating that this is why we're all here and it's how we all feel. Arm wrestling is something I have given more of myself to than anything I've ever done in my life. Learned a lot from, because sometimes you go into the things and you're trying so hard, you make mistakes and you don't have there's no path to follow. It's been fascinating and educational, because I couldn't have tried any harder, and sometimes I've won and sometimes I've lost, but I wouldn't change a thing. I think it's been incredibly rewarding. I missed all other things I've ever done.
I just feel the same.
Yeah.
It's when you sit and you feel the heart rate to your friend which sitting near to you. It's like it's something special which arm wrestling gives for us. Very, very special. It's like when you're deep inside as much as possible and even more. Like it's really inside your heart. It's really inside your soul. And you know that somebody also feel the same. So you like, yeah, you feel that.
Yeah.
You feel this. Just you feel this as much as possible.
It's something you want to succeed more than you want yourself to succeed. Does that make any sense? I don't know really, but it's the only thing I've ever been any good at. You know what I mean? You feel like you can really give some, you really push it. Shit, answers really, but
It's also, I feel the same, that it's when you want to give more than you want to take
yeah,
in this.
that is it. Just something I want to win, something I want to, all the stuff you do to succeed in it, it doesn't matter. All the focus today about whether Lavon wins or Devon wins. If this thing goes right and continues in this vein, and the people see what we do and see the sport, this can change. And I'm revved to the max here trying to cover angles. Push it forward in the right way so that people see it, and if there is a God and he knows, and things fall right today, it can make a difference to our sport. You know what I mean? So yeah, arm wrestling is really friggin' really in the knife edge today. It's there's a potential tipping point for our sport. Yeah, arm wrestling's kind of a reason, I guess.
Yeah. And you know, tonight is going to be very, very, very special, and it's amazing that you guys are going to be part of it, and I'm also so blessed to be part of it. We will really see something special. Neil, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being such an amazing individual. Thank you so much for doing what you've done for the sport and what you will do for the sport. And I think, going back to your words that you said, when they will put dirt on you, you will have done something special for the sport. I want to end this interview with the best wishes of luck. Alex, may the strongest win. Neil, good luck with everything. And I have a demand for you, Neil. You have to write a book about arm wrestling. We, the arm wrestling community, need it. And I don't think there is nobody better suited than you. So it's a demand by behalf of the community, and I hope and you will have time and the resources to do it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.